Hey everyone, I am trying a new setup, so bear with me. Hopefully it goes okay. Welcome to Colourisma. I am Shar, and so today we are going to talk about how to gain confidence and all the associated things with that. So the new setup is that I have a new Wi-Fi thing, and I am trying this on my computer instead of my phone. Now my computer has been having issues with just kernel panicking lately and just shutting down. So hopefully that doesn't happen in the next hour. Fingers crossed. If so, I'll try to scramble back online. Hopefully it doesn't happen though. So yes, let's see. Of course, I've got my trusty notes here. I wasn't actually sure what I was going to do this week. I don't know. I think it's important to be honest, and that's just like not new thing I'm doing, but something I'm kind of taking to heart a little bit more. And I was definitely kind of, I don't know, I get into this little mode of thinking that things aren't working out the way I want or not doing quite what I want. And when I get into that mode, I kind of have to really resist the urge to just scrap everything I'm doing and then start over from scratch. And I felt that really strong this week. It's about that period of time where I've been doing this for a couple of months now, and it's still growing and it's still taking its time. So I think that kind of goes into the topic of the day, though. Like, despite not necessarily feeling like I have the success or the kind of like I don't know, popularity, for lack of a better term, that I'd like with the show right now, I am still pretty confident about what I'm doing with it. I just feel like I need to focus that attention that I'm trying to basically that frustration, focus that frustration into something more productive, probably more advertising, just focusing on other avenues. And in that, I will go ahead and start with a story time. So uh, I have had an interesting life when it comes to the topic of confidence. I started off as a very social, what my parents always called a social butterfly. And I was the kid who in preschool, had to go to each person and say goodbye every single day. So my parents had, 15 minutes to wait for me to wish every single person there a good day. So I had to put them through that. But something happened in first grade. I was good in kindergarten. I remember the whole year as much as you can, and I really enjoyed it. I liked learning all the things. I liked hanging out with all the classmates and had a really good time. And first grade, something happened. It wasn't terrible, but it was something that I hadn't experienced before. And it wasn't even a big deal. But the teacher had asked us to stand up in front of the class, not even in front of the class, but stand up in our desk and at our station and say your name and like one fact about you. And for some reason, I hadn't had to do that before. And even not even going up to the class, but just having all of the attention on me all at once at such a young age, I just kind of had a meltdown. And instead of saying who I was or anything like that, I just decided to cry. And they were like, never mind, you don't have to do that. And from that day on, for the rest of my schooling, I was a completely shy, timid, kind of meek person. I wasn't super nervous or anxious, but I did not like any attention whatsoever. I was always known as the girl with the sketchbook, and I would just like use that as my shield. I could use my drawing ability to kind of make friends or divert the topic away from any attention to me and kind of like onto my artwork instead. And with that, I kind of actually gained confidence in my art. And in a way, it's been good because that confidence is pretty, I feel pretty unshakable at this point. I'm really grateful for it, especially talking to friends and they don't feel the same way about their thing, about their artwork. And I really wish they had that because just growing up, it was always the thing that I could fall back on. When my personality wasn't enough, when I couldn't get up in front of the class, I could make an art project out of anything. I could, history class. I did the history of horses because of course I did. And I could do a giant poster and hold it up in front of my face and then talk behind the poster and make that work. So I always had my art as like a crutch to rest on and to kind of be the one thing I was confident about. I think everybody has that though. I think everybody, even if it isn't your art as an artist, there is a topic of some sort that definitely you can like be confident in because you know a lot about it. So that said, I basically went from first grade all the way through 12th grade in the US school system as the exact same person. I was not the person I was when I was in preschool and kindergarten. And after that, right after high school, I got a job. And my job required me, it was a retail job, and it required me to go up to strangers that I didn't know. And they were very adamant that we not say, "How can I help you?" They said, don't ask that question. They wanted us to observe what was happening, like the person was looking at fish food, and then ask a question that needed an answer. So you see somebody looking at fish food, and then you ask, "Hey, what kind of fish do you have at home?" The answer isn't no, a yes or no. You can't answer that. You have to answer the question or just be totally rude. But most people will then say, "Oh, I have this type of fish," or, "Oh, I don't have any fish, I'm looking." And then you kind of be able to help them from there. "Oh, well, da 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 da," all the associated kind of salesy questions from that. And I had to do that for about a year. I was very bad at it first, but because I had it was almost like a problem solving thing. And it was based in direct observation as to what was happening. You wouldn't ask about fish if you were seeing someone in the dog food aisle. So, by the way, I worked at a pet store. Super surprised there. But yeah, so you wouldn't see someone in the dog food aisle and ask them a question about fish. You based it around exactly what was happening. And by doing that over the course of the year, I got really, really good at both small talk and also just having confidence in myself, my abilities, and being able to deal with people. And a lot of the basically 12 prior years of my whole entire childhood, being shy and timid kind of started coming away, and I was able to be more outgoing. And of course, I kept growing and having more opportunities to learn and do better. But I feel like that one job was the one thing that really turned my whole life around, in the sense of allowing me to have the confidence to be able to approach different people. And I didn't have the confidence right away. I just want to say that part. I was the same, like, meek. I was about to say scared. I wasn't really scared, but I was very meek and shy and timid. And I had to act very much like the professional, and like I knew everything and I had all this, information and knowledge to share. And kind of the secret for me in doing that was being able to educate myself about these topics. I feel one of the things that really helps with confidence is knowledge. I feel like they're almost synonyms. Confidence in of itself is the feeling or consciousness of one's powers or of reliance on one's own circumstances. I very much relate to that definition right now. I am very reliant on one's own circumstances. That almost defines me to a T at the moment. Everything I have around me, I have to make sure it is a certain way myself and make sure that it is like no one else is going to do it. I have to make sure it's the way I want it. And if I get help, I have to go out and get help. I can't, just rely on someone just doing it for me. So yeah, I am very grateful to the experience I had with that first job and just the amount that it really did help me to gain a lot of confidence and then carry that into my future jobs and just situations and pretty much everything, up to talking by myself on a like webcast thing and trying not to let, different things bother me. And I think that's another thing. People may kind of conflate indifference and confidence. I don't think it's about not caring. It is to some extent, but I feel even more that it is about being very specific about your cares. And there's a lot of online terminology that I could say, if you know where I'm getting with that. Just care less about very specific, or care more about very specific things. So thinking about all of this, so that was kind of my origin story about how I was shy, and I don't really consider my shelf is not shy. I'm not shy very much anymore. Maybe in very specific circumstances, but kind of I think it's important to think about the reasons why. Why are you shy or self-confident, or the opposite of self-confident, self-conscious? And decide for yourself whether those are coming from internal or exterior, wow, I can't talk today, or exterior sources. I think pretty much every situation that starts as an exterior source kind of eventually will develop into an interior source. Like, for instance, the fact I was asked to stand up in front of the class was the thing that kind of kickstarted my super self-conscious, shy entire childhood. And that definitely turned into an interior source. But the cure to that was, and the way I built up confidence after that was kind of a fake it till you make it attitude. And I feel like acting like you may have more outgoing tendencies than you really do, and then especially if kind of your job depends on it, really helps. Paychecks help with, having to ensure that you do the thing. It really helps over time, though, and especially a long time, to develop these into natural habits and to just kind of go back onto these behaviors and make it feel like it's not so awkward, because I'm sure it was pretty awkward, especially for me at first, to completely change, not necessarily completely change your behavior, but definitely go outside of your comfort zone. So that said, I also want to acknowledge that there is such a thing as quiet confidence. And that doesn't necessarily look like the super outgoing, super extroverted, stereotypically extroverted kind of personality traits. That can be a lot more subdued, and still you could look at someone who is quietly confident and you wouldn't think of them as necessarily shy. And I feel like the basis of both, being both a very confident, outgoing person and just a quiet, very assertive person, is that just confidence. Wow, using a word to define itself is so meh. But yeah, so let's see. I just lost my train of thought as I went on that little tangent there. But yeah, so in both cases, in both people, the thing that kind of joins them together is the fact that they care about specific people's opinions and people that are closest to them. And I feel like that, mixed with having a great knowledge of certain topics, really helps with the whole entire confidence thing. So let's see. I wanted to address also leaning in. As I said before, knowledge basically is for me the same kind of thing as confidence. Being very knowledgeable about things really will help you to be more confident about them. And I really feel like that is true. So if you lean into the things you're already confident about, I really feel like that will help you in the long run. And if you acknowledge the things that you are less confident about or not so sure about, I also feel like that'll help you. And the main kind of way to go about that is prioritization. Taking the things that really matter to you and prioritizing, learning a lot about them, and becoming kind of like an expert in it is going to really help you and make you kind of see how to gain attention to those things and be able to share that attention to others. If you are less knowledgeable about something, I think also deciding where that fits in your life and either making it a priority or not, and just really going with that decision is really going to help. The fact that I don't super love like exercise and stuff, like I like doing certain things like horseback riding and archery, but just exercising for the sake of exercising, I don't really care about that. I know that flies in the face of a lot of advice and everything, but for me, it's just not a priority. I have a very physically active part-time job, and I basically take that as like the strength training and stamina training throughout the week. So, because I'm standing on my feet for 8 hours. So that kind of works for me. And because I am very aware of that and just I don't prioritize it, and then I also not only don't prioritize it, I am like okay with that. Like I don't sit around and go, oh man, I wish I did that more. Like if it really isn't hurting anything and it's not a priority for you, and it's not going to hurt anyone else around you or yourself, you know, I don't see the point in just sitting around feeling bad because you think that other people should make, or you think that other people want you to do that thing. So for instance, how does this tie into art? So say you're really bad at drawing buildings. Who could we think of that could relate to that? Here's the thing. Don't draw buildings then. Don't draw scenes that require buildings. Draw things that are more in your wheelhouse and that you have more passion and confidence in, and work around it. You could draw directly from reference. You could take your own reference pictures and draw from that. There's ways to work around it. If you do absolutely have to draw a building, you could definitely work around it. But you also don't have to feel bad if it's not your passion, and you can definitely have a whole entire career around you that doesn't involve the necessity to do such a thing. That's a good point. Sam brought up a good point here. I'm actually going to bring it up on the screen here. Heard something interesting today about focusing a majority of your time in your comfort zone and then intentional amounts of time in an area that is difficult for you. That I really agree with. And that is going right in step to what I was saying. That's where the bringing things into a priority come into play. Because if it is important to you, say for instance, what did I have to do recently? It's a little thing, but I had to draw a bat recently. And when I did that, I had to look up bat anatomy, and I had to figure out the hand. Actually, bat anatomy is really cool. They exactly have our hand and wing, and they even have a little thumb, and then there's just webbing that goes between each point, and then from this point down to the elbow. But I had to research all of that. Actually, it goes past the elbow. Sorry, I'm just animal nerd. But yeah, so I had to research all that, look it up, and that is not something I innately had locked in my head. In fact, even some things that I do, like horse anatomy, I'm very experienced with, but I still have to look at reference. It still behooves me to go into that discomfort area and learn even more and drill down even more into the anatomy in order to get more of the effects that I'm looking for from a piece. So I really appreciate that point. And yeah, as well, Sam says it's good to push ourselves, but it also creates a stressor in our lives that will actively work against us in the long run. And high stress is not good over long periods of time. I think what's really important is, like I said, making things a priority. And I feel like that has a lot to do with confidence. I feel a lot of people will take things that are not their priority, and because of other people, mostly, I don't hear a lot of people saying this about, I don't know. I'm sure there's instances in which someone feels very strongly that they should do something and that they don't really want to do, and it's only coming from within. But I feel more often that it is very much a exterior affecting them, society, their family, their parents, their spouses, whatever. I feel like that is typically what happens. And because they are making someone else's priorities their priority when it really isn't, that's where that disconnect and that like lack of self-confidence comes in. I guess if you want to rewind it way back to when I was a kid and I was forced to stand up in front of the class to a degree and state my name, like it's not a big ask, but because that was asked of me and it wasn't what I naturally want to do, which is just sit there, and I could have done the whole thing sitting and I would have been fine. But because I was asked to stand up and everybody's attention was drawn to me, I made everyone in that room a higher priority than what I wanted to do. And because I was a small child, I didn't really like understand like, hey, I could have just done it my way anyway. But you know how it is. It would have been probably labeled as obstinate or whatever. And of course, that was another thing too. I knew that, and I had a lot of societal pressure to do what was asked of me, regardless as to whether I really wanted to or not. And because of that, it like crushed my little tiny child self-confidence for years after that. And hopefully for other people, it's not such a dramatic shift like that overnight in just one instance, but it definitely can be something like that where you taking someone else and acknowledging their priorities over your own can be really kind of soul crushing. It's actually really important to prioritize what's important to you and to focus on those things. I feel like if you don't over long periods of time, it will cause this underlying stress, which of course will affect your confidence because you may not have the energy to dedicate to the things you really want to do. So it all kind of ties back into just deciding what it is that you really want to do, and in some ways disregarding what people say if it doesn't really mesh with what you want to do. And again, I can't emphasize this enough, and it's not hurting anyone, you know? Oh, sorry, my nose is itchy, but I just feel like it's such a important thing to acknowledge what you find important and what your passions are, and you have to kind of consider that above all else. So if you're watching this live, thank you, of course. I think I know everybody who's watching at the moment. I appreciate that. If you have any tips and you're watching live, let me know what you think has helped you over the course of your life to kind of get any confidence. I definitely have a very specific kind of viewpoint coming from myself. I do feel like I have, I don't know, because I had such a long period of my life, my entire childhood, of being the shy, timid kid, and now I'm not. I feel like I do have a point of being able to show how it is possible to move from one type of personality trait to a different one. It's not like I've always been like this outgoing, like bombastic personality my whole life. I was super shy and timid for the vast majority of my childhood, and I managed to overcome that. So I am speaking from that. But if you have a different kind of viewpoint, I know there's a bunch of different societal factors that also play into feeling like imposter syndrome, or like you're not good enough, or just all these things. And I would like to speak on those both in an interview setting kind of thing, or just if people want to contribute. And if you're watching this later, you can always contribute in the comments, and I also read and appreciate those as well. So yes, like I was saying before, knowledge equals confidence. That was kind of the major point I wanted to get to for sure today, and bring up. The more you know about something, the more confident you are about it. And I definitely feel that within myself, and have seen it in other people. The people who you view as the most confident tend to have the most expertise in a particular field. For some reason, like a professional race car driver is coming to mind. Like they probably seem pretty confident, even if their personality doesn't come off as confident. They have a lot of confidence in their skills, and I think that was what happened to me as a kid. I didn't have a confident personality, but I definitely had a lot of confidence in one skill, in art. It was like the one thing I could always depend on and knew about myself. And I think even jumping off from that, it really helps in other areas of your life too, in your personal life as well. I am focused a lot on the personal life and the personal side of this, because I feel like it really affects your art and your art career a ton. I just feel like just the fact that your personality and having low self-confidence, it also kind of seeps into every other area of your life, your profession, your business, and everything. So the more you can kind of raise yourself up, and that doesn't, like I said, that doesn't mean that you have to be this super punchy, like outgoing, super extroverted person, stereotypically extroverted. I have a lot of thoughts on extroverted and introversion, because really all that means is how you get energy, and a lot of people contribute a ton of personality traits to it instead. And I have thoughts on that. But yeah, so I'm going to clarify with a lot of like stereotypical. I think you can be an introverted person, a quiet person, and like I said, quietly confident. You don't have to not be yourself. I feel like as a kid, I am more myself in the way I was when I was very young now than the whole entire childhood when I wasn't quite being myself, because I was allowing myself to be super shy and timid and just very focused on what other people thought. I'm still focused on what other people think, but I have a lot more not precision per se, but like just I have a lot more attention as to who I'm worrying about, and really focused on that. So I just feel like that really helps as well, is knowing that certain people and their opinion about what you're doing has to matter more than just everybody. I've mentioned before in other episodes, but I've had this thing happen over the past few years where I put stuff out. I do a lot of artwork and different kind of projects, and I keep trying to push it out there into the world, and I kind of don't get any response. And I think being able to stay confident despite not getting any response is just kind of like a little bit of a testament as to how to remain confident over the long run as well. It is very difficult to kind of not have the response you're looking for and still think you are on the right path. I kind of opened the episode with that. And it is one of those things where that's where, for me, I end up going back to my priorities and going back to kind of refocusing my attention and figuring out what it is that I do want and what it is, why I'm doing this, and how I can better do things. Okay, so one thing I always ask myself is, am I doing everything I can? And the answer is always no, because no one human can do every single thing that they could possibly do. And when I think about that question, generally some big, not red flags, but some big things happen in my brain that go, no, I'm not funneling any money into advertising. I'm not talking about it as much as I could. I'm not creating new ads and advertising for it. I'm not creating interesting enough ads and advertising for what I want to deal with. So in those ways, and coming up with almost immediately solutions to my very own problems, it also gives me confidence, because I think that's another thing. It's not necessarily, I used to tell this to people when I worked as an acrylic painting teacher. It's not that I don't make mistakes. It's that I'm confident I can get my way out of them. Once I make a mistake, I'm absolutely sure that I can make it better. It's not about never making a mistake. It's about knowing that you could get yourself out of it if you should need to later on. Got some more comments here. So Christy says from earlier, that was a good point. And Sam says, definitely educating myself in areas she has an interest in gives a lot of confidence to speak on it. And yes, the confusion about introversion and extroversion. I guess I'll talk on that for a minute because I have time right now. But the reason why that kind of bugs me is because there was, especially a few years ago, a large amount of kind of attention, especially drawn to introverts. And when you flipped the article titles to then extrovert, it was a little bit, it turned it on its head and made it kind of silly. One I'm thinking of, and it was many articles. I'm not thinking of any particular one, but just kind of a genre of article that was written at the time. And it said like how to take care of your introvert. And then there's other, and it's like, if you take that and you flip it and you say how to take care of your extrovert, it feels funny, right? Like it doesn't sound, it's like, what, why are you talking about that? Like that's all on you. And in fact, being an introvert, I'm both. That's the other thing. I'm an ambivert. So I can draw energy from both being alone and socializing with others. And the key is not too much of one or the other. Like the 3 months I spent earlier this year being completely alone, too much. That was too much. And it doesn't take a lot. That's the other thing I think with being okay with both and seeing the introversion, extroversion on more of a spectrum and being a little bit of both at the same time can really help you to understand both sides of it and also deal in moderation. Because again, I've been to different conventions where I was 5 days of nothing but being around people all the time and not even having like my own bed to sleep in by myself. Like I had to share the bed and I had to share breakfast and I had it with lots of people, not just like one person, like just continually never not being around people. That gets to me too after several days. Again, like a couple days, that's fine. When it starts getting into super long-term, it gets a little much. So I think it's a little, and I'm going to preface this again. I used to be a super introvert when I was a kid, and I was super shy and timid. I would get all of my energy from being alone. Being around people stressed me out, mostly because I was too concerned with what their wants and needs were and not enough with my own. So the only way I could kind of work on me or do what I wanted was by being by myself. And I get it that there's like a lot of personality traits that go in with that. And there are probably more proclivities of certain people with certain personality traits strongly identifying with one or the other. But you can be an outgoing introvert. It's totally fine. You can be good at having conversations with people. You can be very social and interactive with people. You can be a good public speaker and be an introvert. It's just about how you recharge and where your energy comes from. That's it. So I like harping on that a little bit. It's less relevant now. A few years ago, it was huge, and people were just like really in like other people's faces about being an introvert. And I'm like, that's not what that means. Like I was a super introvert and I kind of learned how to be both. So it is possible to switch as well and learn how to be more okay with the presence of others. And I think a lot of that has to do with confidence. And and so understanding all of that, being better about it, and really kind of understanding yourself is a big part of it as well. I agree, Sam. Sam is my sister, and she is so lovely and in helping me interact with the show and providing all these comments. I appreciate it. And she said that I think how we perceive and value ourselves plays a lot in confidence level and being able to say I'm pushing even though no one else sees me yet. Yes. Thank you. And kind of in that aligning with both introversion, extroversion, making different things a priority, I feel like it is important to say that the more you know about yourself and the more, well, let's backtrack. So the more you know, the more confident you are. So it makes sense that the more you know about yourself, the more confident you are about yourself. You'll know yourself better than anyone else. And in that, you'll have confidence as to how you'll react in certain situations. Like I know for myself, if I have to do something 3 times, on the 3rd time, I get angry. I just know that about myself. Like it doesn't matter what it is. If I'm trying to put something away and it won't go into the bucket, and on the 3rd time I will get mad about it. And it's almost because I know that about myself, it actually makes me laugh. Like I get angry and then I start laughing right away because I knew I was going to do that, and I can't even help myself. Like once you get to that level of just knowing how you are, it's almost reassuring to just follow through. And again, especially if it doesn't really hurt anyone. And I only try to get mad at inanimate objects. That's like my rule. But yeah, so that's kind of a thing. The more you know about yourself, the more you make yourself a priority, then you'll be the expert in you and you'll understand yourself better. You'll understand what you like and what you dislike, what you may learn or understand about yourself to better navigate the world. So I wrote that out, and I was like, I really want to, not deviate and riff off of it. I wanted to just read it out. But yes, so I am trying to think of more things to add to this. I definitely want to, I feel like this is such an important topic, but I feel like I need more perspectives in order to kind of speak on different things, because childhood for me was going on 20 years ago. And, and so it is harder and harder for me to kind of speak on the way things used to be, things that are very intrinsic and emotionally driven will stick in my mind a little bit better. Like, I don't know, from 1st grade after that moment to 6th grade is kind of a blur. Like I just went to school and came home and drew, and that was about it. Like I didn't really, I moved around a few times in that period, but it was not a super remarkable experience. So I really think that it's one of those things where the more emotional impact a memory has, the more it can stick with you. And that can also be good and bad, right? Like that can definitely, yes, Christy came up with a good point. I will finish my prior thought though, but yes, I feel like the more emotional impactful the memory is, both good and bad, can definitely leave a mark and really shape a lot of your personality traits. Christy mentioned that it really helps to surround yourself with other people who are confident and optimistic, and that is true. And that is something I have been learning a lot this year, specifically. It is hard once you know someone and you've been around them for a long time, and maybe their family or whatever the circumstances. And I've heard before, let's see if I don't totally butcher it, but don't stay invested in a mistake just because you spent a long time making it. Just because there's a lot of sunk cost in with a particular person or situation, if it's really not good for you, if it's really not something that is bringing you joy and is actively potentially causing harm, I think it is really important to realize that that situation is something that you should be prioritizing getting away from. There's so many different circumstances that I can speak on in that regard. But knowing what it is that, knowing yourself definitely helps. What is it that you want out of life? For me, I like small spaces, and living like by myself was important as opposed to like a roommate situation. So I totally reformatted my thoughts on what that looks like in order to make that happen. And by doing that, it's been stressful, but also brought me a lot of peace, because I am living the dream and not effectively, but one day when a lot of these issues are taken care of, y'all, I'm getting a new toilet this week, and I'm super excited about that. I feel like my grandma doing a little dance. But yeah, so it's the little things I'm super excited about. I got new Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm really moving up in the world. But yeah, so and I've also heard before, getting away from a situation can be very motivational. But I feel like that is a good initial motivation, and what's more sustainable is to move toward something, to have an end goal in mind that you're running toward, instead of just something in the rearview mirror that is chasing you and you're running away from. That is very motivational, let me tell you. That's how all animals survive in the wild, is that they are running away from a predator, and they are very motivated to do so. But you don't see them just running around for the sheer joy of it in the wild. Animals don't tend to do that. And the reason why is because they have to conserve their energy. And they do, I don't know why I'm going on this metaphor so long, but it's something I've been thinking about lately too, in the sense of like the whole running away thing. They don't have a lot of future thoughts in general, like a deer or a rabbit. They're not thinking about like, what is it that I really want down the line? And that is a slight burden that us people are having to deal with in our lives. But because we can see into the future for ourselves and decide for ourselves what we want, we get to kind of think about things in a way that really helps us, and be able to get away from situations that are really not beneficial to us. So I feel like what Christy said is absolutely true. And as well, if you are around a lot of pessimistic people or friends, you can absorb. I'm very empathetic. I think a lot of artists are. And you can absorb those traits and also just the feelings from other people. And you can start feeling very pessimistic about your situation. And even if it's a nice situation, even if it's a good situation that you really want to be in, if you're around people that are just constantly complaining or just constantly seeing the worst in everything, that can be very draining. And you can find your own mood being altered because of it. And that can definitely ding your own confidence, because if you're kind of naturally a happy person and you're hanging around someone all the time that is really being down on everything, you can feel yourself like it's like there's a leveling out process that happens. If you're way up here and that person is way down here, you might be bringing them up, but they're also bringing you down. It's just something to think about. You may want to modulate your interactions with certain people in order to help preserve your own kind of inner sanctum of your mind. I find that's been something that's really helped me in the past few years, is to definitely just keep track of my feelings and how I'm feeling when I'm around certain people, and the people that I have the best feelings toward and have the best times around, I'm prioritizing those people in my life and allowing them in more, and people who I still love and appreciate and want the best for, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, I can't allow myself to be around them a lot because their energy is negatively affecting mine. I will do what I can. You know, I will be there as I can and as much as I can. And you know, you got to do what works best for you. And it's kind of a heavy topic. I kind of didn't want to. I don't want to leave on such a heavy note because I overall want this to be a positive experience, but it can be when you really get into this kind of stuff and you kind of dig in and you think about all the things that may or may not be issues going on that can negatively impact your confidence level. It can get into some heavy stuff, and that's okay too. It's not something that you may want to think about all the time. It may not be something that you want to focus on like for 8 hours a day, but definitely taking some time, a little bit of time each day, and kind of doing a check-in with your own feelings, especially if you are not feeling great. And I am speaking from a mindset of a relatively able-bodied person, and so, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt. If you have particular needs that you need to do, you know you best, and that's definitely something I want to emphasize in any kind of these kind of advice segments. They are coming from someone with relatively neurotypical aspects. I did have a good conversation with someone and recently and kind of realized that I actually might have some ADHD tendencies, which I don't feel like I really resisted before, but I was trying to find any way I could to, I wanted to 100% mesh with the idea of it. And there are a lot of things in that realm that don't relate, like I can't relate to, like having high, like people think of ADHD as being super energetic all the time. And my energy level is very low almost all the time. And that also could deal with autoimmune disorder that I may have. So between the two, I didn't quite relate to it. But then talking it over, I was realizing more and more like, nah, actually a lot of this really kind of like checks out. And it does sound like me. So I think you can always learn about yourself. And in doing so, now I have some extra tools to look into. I was recommended a YouTube channel that I'll check out some videos on. And I've already been kind of inundated with ADHD TikTok. So I'll just continue to follow those and maybe like ask some questions on those videos as well. But any kind of thing that you can learn about yourself is going to help you in your confidence about yourself. Because like I said, if the more you know about something, the more confident you will be in it. And in doing that, you're going to be able to understand how you're going to react in certain situations. And you can then decide, do I want to engage with this situation or do I want to disengage with this situation? And knowing how it's going to make you feel in advance is very helpful and will make you feel better about the whole situation, even if there are a lot of emotional ties and maybe in an emotionally charged situation. Just knowing that you are doing what's best for you is gotta have some, you gotta like trust in the fact that you're doing the best you can for yourself. And in doing that, you're really going to overall help your energy level, your emotional needs, and get more confident. So I think I am going to call it there. I appreciate everybody who has watched and has contributed to the conversation. If you have anything to add into the comments, if you're watching this later, then let me know like how you feel your confidence level is. Do you feel like it's super high already and you're just excited to be able to keep going? Or do you feel like there's some situation that you're dealing with that you would like to kind of get either clarity on or just have questions about how to deal with that? I'm available to like chat about it in the comments. So if you are interested in this kind of conversation and want to help support the community, Colourisma has a Discord channel that we're slowly growing, and I'm very excited about because everybody there already is super nice. And I've also got a Patreon, and you can get that at patreon.com/Colourisma. And there's a bunch of different things. You can be the most excellent person when you're there. As well, we broadcast. It's just me. Sometimes there's interviews, but Tuesdays, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when Colourisma is on. So if you subscribe in the buttons, wherever those may be, then that also really helps the channel and helps get the word out and helps other artists. So I really appreciate everyone watching, and I will catch you later. Bye.